I am Halifa Sallah, and I am a political figure in the Gambia, and I believe my role has always been to help shape the mindset of young people because of my own experience in life. And that at the age of 16 and a half is when I heard a message from a political leader from the United States called Stokely Carmichael, who lamented over the suffering of the people of African descent in that part of the world, and came to Africa in search of his roots, and felt that we shared a common destiny, and therefore we needed to act as a people to make our life better on the face of the earth. So that is who I became at that age, and I believe my mission is to fulfill that aspiration, to speak and act in the interests of the African people and humanity at large.
Okay, Mr. Salah, we are here on behalf of Mr. Honorable Dembo Byforce documentary. As we stated, we are working on the documentary of the senior citizens in our country, for which we the young people look up to you people as our role model. So first of all, we would love to know, when did you first meet or come to know Dembo Byforce Bojang?
Well, to know a person is to work with a person. We came to work with each other under the umbrella of the Inter-Party Committee. This came at a very tragic moment in the political history of the country. That was the period when the leader of the UDP, Honorable Hussein Dabo, was arrested and then ultimately incarcerated. And it became very difficult for the UDP supporters to meet at the UDP headquarters. Security was everywhere. And consequently, the leadership that was left behind decided to be meeting at the leaders' premises. And there we met them to express our concern. And I was the chair of the Inter-Party Committee and requested from them what they felt we should do to be able to work together for the release of their leaders, but also to ensure that whilst they were incarcerated, they would be properly treated. That was the first time I came into direct contact to work with him. I could remember that we commenced work very quickly at the Inter-Party Committee to make very important decisions. The first decision was to form a team to go to the home of everybody who was detained so that we will inform the families the whereabouts of their loved ones. Because nobody could have the opportunity at that time to be able to do that. And families were very confused. They had no information about their own sons and daughters. And I could see when we first appeared, whether it was Tujereng, etc., all these villages, you will see the love people had for Honorable Dembo Bojang, that his presence was highly felt, and it served as a motivation for people to at least understand that some people, responsible people, were working for the release of their loved ones. That's where we started our relationship.
What were your early impression of him as a person and a political figure?
Well, you know, a political figure in times of crisis. Here, the leadership of the party he belongs to had been incarcerated, and he was allowed to be at the forefront to see what he could do to ensure that there was no despair, to ensure that their family members will be well informed of what was happening to them. And he took charge of that responsibility with humility and with real enthusiasm. And you could see that he earned our support, our confidence as we move from one family residence to another to help these people to understand that we cared and we will continue to keep them informed about the situation of their loved ones.
It was widely believed that you and Badembo Byforce Bojang were among the key architects of the coalition 2016. Can you take us back to that moment in history? How did it all begin?
Well, it's not good to mention a long history because you are focusing on him. He is a very intelligent person and very sincere person, a very wise person. The situation was very critical, as I said. His party leader and many of their party officials were imprisoned. And he had to carry out a responsibility of how to guide the party in their absence. My role initially was to try to bring people together on a non-partisan basis so that we'll be able to address the situation in the country. Because once you bring people together on a partisan basis, it may look after their party's interests. So the starting point was to get the presidential candidates to meet and discuss about forming an alliance where one will be a flag bearer among them. Some of the candidates were independent candidates, some belonged to political parties. But then, when we reach a situation where a selection would have to be done, then of course it will be difficult for them to select each other because each person will select himself or herself. So you'll never be able to get a decision on that part. We had what you call Gambia Opposition for Electoral Reform. We call it GOFA, as an association of opposition parties. And our approach was to work together for electoral reform. And we had written a petition to the then president of the Republic for him to carry out certain electoral reforms. But prior to anything happening, the place became tense and people were arrested and incarcerated. So that agenda could no longer be fulfilled. So consequently, when it came to selection of a presidential candidate to be a flag bearer, I contacted him and told him that since your party leader is incarcerated and you are in charge, you should be able to convene a meeting of GOFA as his representative so that GOFA will decide how to select a flag bearer. That was a very difficult decision to make. He was asked to reflect on the importance of getting one person to be a flag bearer for what ultimately would become a coalition, because we move from the presidential candidates now to those who should select the flag bearer, so we involve the political parties. Therefore, he played a major role in accepting to convene a meeting of the Gambia opposition for electoral reform, GOFA, so that the political parties will consult and determine how one among the 6 presidential candidates who had agreed to discuss and come to terms in selecting one among them to be a flag bearer to be selected. And of course, when he agreed, we again convened a meeting at Kairaba Beach Hotel, where I started the whole building of the process by inviting the presidential candidates. So now it was the turn of the political parties to decide whether there will be a part of those who will select one among the presidential candidates who will agree to be part of the process. We had our first meeting, and he wanted me to chair it. I said, you at this moment must accept, to show you his humility, that you must accept the role, of convening the meeting, and you must also accept the role of chairing the meeting. Since now you've accepted the role of convening the meeting, then you are duty bound to chair the meeting. We push and pull a bit, but ultimately he accepted. Just to show you that he was not looking for fanfare or an image. He sincerely wanted to do what was right. When we convened the meeting, interestingly enough, he said, well, I'm not only going to be chairing, but I would also want a co-chair. And he nominated Honorable Fatoumata Tambajang to Jallo Tambajang to be a co-chair. And the meeting accepted. And that's how he became chair, and also Honorable Tambajang became co-chair to chair that first meeting of the political parties to be able to select the presidential candidates. So I must say, yes, he played a major role, and he has left a legacy in actually accepting to carry out that responsibility.
In your own words, how will you describe Dembo Byforce, the man or a statesman?
Well, I think I've already done that by, number one, telling you that when his party was suffering its most tragic moment, he stood firm to show leadership. Leadership is being visible, doing something. He stood firm and played a major role in the inter-party committee. Ambassadors were there on almost, let me say frequently, let me not say daily basis, but very frequently. The party leaders will meet with the ambassadors in the country to talk about how to release those people who are incarcerated. We had many meetings with the permanent secretary, Minister of Interior, officials at Ministry of Interior. Many moves were made in order to protect those people who are incarcerated. And he demonstrated leadership. That's what statesmanship is all about. Number two, when it came to coming with a decision to convene a meeting of GOFA, he accepted, not knowing whether his party will actually have its presidential candidate elected or not. He accepted to be part of the process. That is being a statesman. Not only that, After convening the meeting, in order to give gender balance to the chairpersonship of that meeting, he nominated a woman to join him so that they could co-chair. So that creates a sense of unity. His humility also inspired all those who participated in the process, because nobody at that material time showed any form of interest in pushing for one thing or the other to happen. We were acting at the beginning in good faith to start the process, and he was there throughout. Indeed, he has left a legacy by playing that major role in the process. And he did so not expecting anything in return. He did not expect anything in return. In fact, I believe afterwards I learned about his credentials, his educational credentials, that he was really a professional in the agricultural sector. So if he were somebody else, he would say that, well, if you're going to have ministers, I will be the first minister of agriculture. But essentially, he left his faith in the hands of the coalition. He left his faith in the hands of the person who ultimately became the president-elect of the Gambia.
What do you believe motivated him to continue engaging in national service even in his advanced age?
Well, you see, we must understand what advanced age means. In law, a person becomes dysfunctional if you suffer from infirmity in mind or body. That's what the law actually says. If you suffer from infirmity in mind or body, then obviously you cannot perform a national service. But as long as you do not suffer from such infirmity, then one, based on what you are capable of doing, should continue to serve your nation. I believe that he, throughout his adult years, saw the need to stand as a then member of the House of Representatives and was elected and ultimately stood for the National Assembly and also got elected. So one must say that he has always had the aspiration to serve the community. And that aspiration extended to accepting to convene a meeting of GOFA for us to be able to select a flag bearer for the 2016 presidential election. That, I believe, crowns his legacy.
What guiding principle or personal values have you observed in Dembo Byforce that shape his leadership and political actions?
Well, we became very close in a very strange way because we really did not have personal relationship. Our relationship was based on national interest. The fact that I could appeal to him to convene a meeting of GOFA reflects trust in him, because I will not approach somebody I believe would not be able to carry on that responsibility in good faith. Number two, the fact that he was pushing the chairpersonship of that meeting to me shows his humility. And ultimately, by accepting, there's a sense of responsibility. I have said this, and I don't want to continue repeating, that the fact that he created some element of gender parity in chairing that meeting shows that the person believes in inclusiveness. And one thing that became very evident during the meeting is his humility. And as I said, we were not personal friends. But when we started the tour of the campaign, and I saw and heard what people were saying and doing. And I was not satisfied because I knew that if we continue that trend, it would be a conflict in the whole political landscape and political campaign, because people were very angry with the incarceration of leaders, and they wanted to use the political platform to express their frustrations and anger. And I told them very clearly that if we wanted to succeed, we must go into this campaign as one Gambia, one nation, one people. We must put our frustration behind and speak a language that the Gambian people as a whole, not on partisan basis, will understand. So it was very humorous when he goes up to a point and then his emotion will get the better part of him. Then I will signal him. And he said, okay, okay, okay. Then after he finishes his communication, he will come back to me and say, now how is it? Then we'll both laugh. And that's how we continued in the campaign, where he really performed on the basis of what was in the interest of our presidential candidate and what was in the national interest. And that shaped the whole campaign. We shaped the whole mood of the campaign. And the mood was to give Gambia a new start, to bring people together who had an aspiration to save the Gambia so that we can give Gambia a new start. And of course, our relationship built up during the campaign, and thereafter, you could see that he consulted me quite often when he was dissatisfied with whatever arrangements emerged out of the outcome of the coalition in terms of presidential selection of ministerial posts and all that. You could see that initially it's like he was not fully considered. So we had to address that because the people of Bakau saw him, the nation saw him. All the effort he did to make this possible was seen, and therefore nobody would accept that he should be left behind and become invisible. So the battle for him to be visible became very significant at that moment. And we did that together.
Okay, we're running out of time. Can you quickly tell us what do you think young Gambians can learn from his approach to politics and service? And also to wrap it all, what advice will you send to the young people, especially those that are growing up into adulthood? What can they learn from his legacy?
Well, we must learn that each individual has a choice. So you can belong to any political association, you can stand for any political party, you can promote any political agenda. That is the right of every citizen. But there is also the national interest, what we share with everybody. Because individuals do not own a country, parties do not own a country. Ethno-linguistic groups do not own a country. A country is owned by all the citizens. So there are moments when we leave our individual wants, likes, and dislikes and promote the national interest. That's when we can gauge who the person is. I am telling you, when it came to a point where all had to set our personal and partisan interests aside and promote the national interest, he was there, ready to be at the forefront with all of us to make it happen. And it did happen. He has left a legacy in the history of the country.
It's almost the 2 o'clock prayer, so what advice will you send to the young people in general? Because so many of the people look up to you as a role model. which most people feel they can take your footstep by reaching to that destination, what will be your final say to the nation?
Well, I believe we have given the example where here we were putting a coalition together. People selected someone who is not you, and you did not fan back and say, I am the one who must be selected, otherwise everything must be torn to pieces, or everything must be torn asunder. He said, let's all work together in the spirit of one Gambia, one nation, one people, and bring a change that all of us would be able to defend. So what is important, regardless of what the outcome of the coalition is, for the first time in the history of the Gambia, in 2016, Gambia changed through the ballot box. And we did so by putting personal interests, partisan interests, ethno-linguistic attitudes, regional attitudes behind, and have Gambia at heart. Therefore, the example to all the young people is that Gambia is not owned by one person. Gambia is not owned by one religion. Gambia is not owned by one ethno-linguistic group. Gambia is not owned by one political party. Gambia is owned by the Gambian people. So our difference should not be so marked that we hate each other to destroy each other. Rather, difference should be seen as diversity that we tolerate, whilst we work together to put our collective minds, our collective intelligence, our collective hearts, our collective conscience, our collective will in order to shape a destiny that is good for all of us. Each mind, each young mind must speak the language of knowledge. We must seek it and own it. Each young person, the heart of each young person must speak the language of love. The conscience of each young person must speak the language of truth, so that justice will guide our action to serve the common cause. That is what every young person should be determined to do. Then we will know ourselves, we will know our country, we will know the world, and we will not be a slave to anybody on the face of the earth. We will know our country, we will know ourselves and know the world, then we will be the architects of our own destiny, a destiny of liberty, dignity, and prosperity.
MashaAllah. Well, that marks the end of the time. It is nice talking about legacies of our great leaders, but as we work according to time, all might not be said. With this opportunity, I must thank you once again. It's indeed a great pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You are young, but keep up.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, you will be guiding the young people.
Inshallah.
Okay.
Yeah.